Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been far too long, mostly thanks to the terrible British weather and a few other things, life, small children, work, you know, the usual kind of stuff. Anyway, I thought it was about time that I gave you an update on the car. I'm about 2.5 years or so into ownership now. Also just been through a service and MOT, which ended up being significantly more expensive than I hoped. There is a bit of a silver lining to that, but I'll take you through it in a minute. So yeah, anyway, let's I'll get the car on the road and take you through it. So here we are back out on the road. Yeah, the car's been not getting as much use as I hoped, as I say, mainly thanks to the weather, I would say. But even in those kind of cold, dark, wet, miserable months, I do try and make the effort to get it out minimum once a month for a decent drive. Otherwise it just kind of sits there on the C-Tech, getting a lot of love in the garage. And it, you know, I did buy it to drive it, so I do try my best. But yeah, obviously, hopefully those summer months coming up, so planning to get it out a fair bit more. Like I mentioned, went in for service and MOT the other day. I took it to Hendy Performance in Eastleigh. They've looked after me with this car for, well, since I've had it now. Always been pretty good, very knowledgeable with these cars. Expecting it to get through pretty cleanly this year. Maybe an advisory on the front two tyres because they're starting to get low. Probably got a little bit of life in them, but they're sort of on the way. But yeah, and I think last year it was pretty clean, other than I had to have one of the coil springs replaced because it had a slight crack in it, which I didn't realise until obviously rocked up at the MOT station. But yeah, sadly that wasn't to be the case this year. I was sat there, I planned to just sort of wait for the car. Guys came out and said, yeah, unfortunately it's failed the MOT, and I was thinking, oh, what? You know, what's it going to be? Something really silly? No, it actually failed on emissions this year. Totally unexpected. Got through fine last year. The exhaust that I had on the car was, you know, fairly standard. I was running the standard catback, although it had a D-res, and the Mount Tune 2.75 inch downpipe from the MK2 50 kit. But yeah, relatively stock with couple of minor tweaks. Yeah, the guys were really good actually. They decided they would try and run it again, get it up to temperature. I wasn't holding out a lot of hope because I'd driven sort of 35-40 minutes to get there, but you know, worth a go. So they ran it through again, and unfortunately it failed on emissions again. It was clean on everything else other than the advisory for the tyres, as I mentioned. Yeah, so that was a bit of a pain. Obvious thing to look at then is the cat. And now, obviously, these cars are, you know, getting on a bit. This one's done nearly 90k as well, so that was the obvious kind of culprit to look at. I've heard actually since from a few guys on Instagram with the same car that pretty much everyone's original Ford Cat has given up the ghost by now. Yeah, just one of those things really. It's just got old and died. Bit of a dilemma then, obviously, trying to source an original Ford Cat would be probably difficult. Probably find a second-hand one, but then it's probably on the way out, if not already dead. Trying to find a new one, very tricky and probably very expensive, even if I could find one. So obviously the obvious option then is to go with a sports cat. That's great, happy with that. Sports cat, I was like, is it going to fit on the standard catback, or should you just put, you know, a sports catback on there anyway? As it happened, Hendy actually had a Scorpion system on the shelf. Apparently some other customer had ordered it and sadly crashed/written off their RS before having it fitted. So anyway, the guys were happy to do me a bit of a deal on it, as it was only going to end up on eBay otherwise, apparently. But yeah, I mean, you guys know how much a full turbo back system relatively simple MOT and service turned into something a bit more involved. I had to wait till the next day as well, because they needed to get a couple of gaskets in, I think a couple of other bits. The plus side was I did get the Hendy Performance HP 500 Focus RS Mark III for the night, so that's always a nice treat to have a go in that one. And yeah, obviously silver lining, I have got a shiny new exhaust fitted to the car, so it's the Scorpion 3-inch downpipe 200 cell sports cat, and then non-res catback with the polished tips. So I don't know whether I'd have gone with Scorpion if I'd have just sort of had my choice. I've had a Miltech system in the past on an ST150, which I really enjoyed, and I know obviously Miltech made the mount tune stuff, and my car's a mount tune car, so I might have been tempted to go that way. That being said, I know the Scorpion brand, I know they're decent quality, they've been around years, so no real hesitations about using them. And you know, I was also kind of caught with my pants down a little bit for the MOT. It's like, do you want to take this off the shelf, put it on your car, pass the MOT, etc., and just have like minimal hassle for, you know, a few quid more? Sure, okay, let's go with that. I guess I'd have probably, if I'd have known about it in advance, I'd have probably, you know, looked for a second-hand system, perhaps, save myself a few quid there. I wasn't to know though at the end of the day. I mean, it passed fine last year. How do you know your cat's gone? The guys at Hendy, when they fitted it, they did actually let me come and have a look at the old cat, which basically had a hole through the middle, so I was running a sort of half D cat, which was quite interesting and yeah, unexpected. So yeah, I could definitely see that was the problem. So I guess the next question is, what do I think of the new exhaust? Am I pleased with the sound? Obviously, exhausts are very subjective, and I actually really liked the sound of my previous exhaust, so the standard system of the D-Res and the mount tune downpipe. I thought it had a nice sort of raspy tone to it. It added a little bit of volume that the standard system didn't have, so when I first picked up the car, it was far too quiet. I was a little bit, almost a bit disappointed it was so quiet, to be honest, so I had to do something. And I think in my mind I always wanted to add a full exhaust system eventually. Probably wasn't going to do it right now, obviously because of the cost, so like I said, needs a must for the MOT. But yeah, anyway, it was like I said, a bit of a silver lining because I got the full exhaust system. So the Scorpion, when I've been doing a bit of research, sort of as they've been fitting it, etc., I'd seen a few people say it was a little bit loud, a little bit drony perhaps. Obviously it's non-res, and I would have gone non-res because this car isn't a daily car for me. It's a car that I drive for fun at the weekends or evenings, you know, take to breakfast meets and that kind of stuff. So I actually want a little bit more noise without it being crazy antisocial. I'm also not really a D-Cat guy. Like, I do appreciate them and everything, but I like to keep my cars, personally I like to keep them MOT friendly and not create myself the hassle of all of that. Each to their own, but yeah, that's just my preference. So yeah, sound wise of this, got in the car, drove it back. I stuck the old system in the back of the car with the seats down, as a lot of people do. Started it up for the first time and I was like, wow, this is a lot louder. Driving it home on the motorway, like in that situation, I was like, wow, this is quite drony, and like, what have I done? Like I said, don't mind a bit of volume, but I had a feeling like, you know, the wife wasn't going to like it and wasn't going to hurt my ears after, you know, a couple of hours driving it, so on. But anyway, as I've driven it a bit more, put the rear seats back up, I feel like it's sort of coped up a bit. It really isn't that bad. In fact, I'm not finding it mega loud. It sounds really nice when you put your foot down. Start up and idle are louder, and to be honest, they sound lovely now. It probably, like, almost on that kind of cold start tick over, it almost sounds a bit kind of boomy and a bit drony then, but once it settles into a standard idle, it's really, really nice. And when I put my foot down now, it really sounds like I've unlocked the noise of the 5-pot, and it is glorious. I don't know how well you guys can hear it on this camera. I've taken a few shots out by the exhaust, so I'll stick them on there as well so you can hear it. But yeah, really quite pleased with it. Kind of pottering along at sort of round town speeds, it's really not that loud at all. You get a nice little burble from it every now and again. When you let off the accelerator, you get the odd little pop. I wouldn't say I've noticed tons of pops and bangs so far, to be honest. Obviously it's not a decat. I do get them sometimes. Obviously, you know, on these cars, if you let off around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, sometimes you get them, or under sort of full acceleration to the sort of, you know, near the red line. But when they do come, they're pretty loud. But yeah, a nice sort of amount, kind of natural and not artificial. I don't know how well you guys can sort of hear it from inside here, but it sounds pretty good. I'll see if I can give it a little stick in a sec. There you go. This is in third gear. Little pop there. So yeah, this is just cruising along at the national speed limit now. There's a tiny bit of drain, but it's not that bad, and it's not as bad as I initially thought it was going to be on that drive home. I thought I'd made a bit of a mistake at that point. Yeah, actually now quite happy with it, to be honest. I think as a weekend non-daily car, it's going to be pretty nice. If it was a daily, maybe you'd want the resonated system, or a resonated system of some kind. If you've got the full system, I think non-res is absolutely fine if you were just running a catback, to be honest. Yeah, I'll see how it goes as time goes on and I use it a bit more. But yeah, generally quite happy with it as it's sort of coking up a bit and getting a bit of use. Otherwise, I had a detailing friend of mine go over the headlights on the car recently. They were starting to, you know, get the usual kind of fading of age. I think in an ideal world, I'd like to replace the headlights, but they are fairly pricey. And I have fitted the new projector lens kit to this one, so the light output on these headlights is absolutely amazing now. Sort of factory fresh, so it seems a shame to kind of bin them off. But anyway, yeah, I got a detailing friend of mine to go over them. I had to go myself before and get them sort of pretty good, but I thought I'd leave someone that kind of really knows what they're doing to have a go. And he's done a really nice job. They're not absolutely perfect, of course. They're loads better, and I got him to PPF them as well. So I was like, what can I do to kind of just stop them getting worse? And it was either sort of ceramic coat or PPF them. And I think actually in quite a lot of lights, the PPF is actually giving it a little bit of gloss back as well to the headlights. So quite happy with that. Yeah, I'll stick a picture on there so you can see it. Also absolutely loving the Kenwood head unit that I fitted instead of the Lux 2 system. I did do a video on that, which I'll link for you. But yeah, having CarPlay, Android Auto, whichever phone you've got, is wireless as well, and it's given me DAB and a few other bits. Still works with the factory reverse camera and factory steering wheel controls. So yeah, really loving that. It feels like I've brought the car a bit more up to date, and you know, using Waze while I'm on the way to a breakfast meal or something is a lot nicer than using the original Ford sat nav, which, while it works, is obviously on the dated side now. So yeah. So what about future plans for the car? Well, as you may or may not have worked out, I now have a Mount MK2 MK350, including the horribly expensive and hard to find fuel pump, plus a full turbo back exhaust system. In other words, precisely around 87% of a Mountune MR375. All I need is a reset valve, which I have in the garage but haven't fitted it yet, and the Mountune plenum plus the map itself, of course. With that in mind, it would seem a shame not to finish it off, so that's probably the direction I'll choose to go at some point. It will have to wait a bit though. Clearly I've just had the expense of the new exhaust, and then because I worry about these things, there's also the clutch to think about. Now, the clutch is absolutely fine at the moment, to be clear, but I've got loads of paperwork with this car and nothing about a clutch. The car is also getting on towards 90k now, so in my head I feel there's a fair chance that adding a load more torque with the MR375 map could finish the clutch off. Maybe it'll be fine, maybe it's already been done at some point and I'm missing the paperwork. But either way, I'm feeling like I want to prepare myself for the cost of a clutch at the same time, just in case. Once I'm at MR375, I'll likely leave it there. I don't really have any desire to go beyond that. In fact, a lot of people seem to think that that's the sweet spot for these cars, and I can see why. These cars, while not the quickest by modern standards, are still more than fast enough to have fun with on the B roads, and I feel like more power than that might take away some of that usability. Maybe. Anyway, that's enough for today. Appreciate you all watching my videos. Please do take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really means a lot. See you all in the next one.